All right, folks. So today we're going to be talking about top 3 mistakes people make while mixing songs. Number 1, you're touching the volume way too much. Okay? When I'm mixing a song, don't matter what DAW I'm using. I have my reference track, right? My reference track is in the DAW, and I've set my reference track to hit at negative 10 dB. Okay? So let's say I got my reference track and it's a hip hop song. I already know the highest instruments in the song is the kick and the snare. So I get the kick and the snare set at negative 10 dB. And then when I'm going to go mix my beat, same thing. My kick and my snare are hitting louder than anything else, and they're hitting at negative 10 dB. Okay? I set the volume, right, on my speakers to a low volume. Low enough to where I'm not even hearing the bass. Okay, I'm not even hearing the bass. I'm hearing the sounds perfectly well, but it's turned down so low that like you wouldn't really be able to enjoy the song at this volume, but you could still hear all the elements of it. And the reason you want it low like that is because you're going to prevent yourself from getting ear fatigue, and you're going to be able to hear the differences between the frequencies a lot better. When it is up too loud, everything just kind of meshes together, and inadvertently it ends up sounding better. You don't want to do that to yourself. So it's kind of like if you were looking at a painting and you were like really up close on it, and I asked you, okay, 2 feet up to your right and over this way, what do you see? It's like, well, I can only see what's right in this space right here. But when you step back, you can see the whole thing. So by you turning the volume down, you're essentially pushing the music away from you so you can step back from it and look at it. That's why you're able to get a better understanding of the frequencies. That's mixing mistake number 1. Touching the volume too much. So once you set the volume on your speakers from the mixing process all the way through to when let's say you mix the beat separately, but then you go to record the song separately and you mix the vocals. Make sure you know exactly where you had the volume set at, right? Let's assume that you were doing all of this mixing all at one time. The whole time you're not gonna touch the knob on the headphones. You're gonna set it really low, and then you're not gonna touch it again. I can't overemphasize this enough, because even though I knew this in the back of my mind, I would still screw around with it and turn it louder, then turn it back down. You're going to be distorting what your ears are hearing. You're going to be wearing your ears down really fast. And it's very easy for your mind to get tricked by frequencies and stuff. So when you keep going up and down, you're going to start tricking your ear into thinking that things are off when it may already be good. And then you're going to mix the whole song into oblivion. So set your fader, set your knobs on your console or whatever, on your interface, and don't touch them again. Trust me on this, okay? As if I didn't emphasize it enough. Number 2, you're not leaving headroom. Right? This is probably more geared towards beginners, but even people that have been mixing for a while, you know, if you're not like a professional engineer and you're like an at-home artist, you might forget you need to leave headroom on your mixes, okay? Because by the time you go to, like, say, create a mix bus and you got your vocal and you're going to glue your vocal to your instruments, you're going to need that space. Things are going to get louder. Most likely, things are going to get louder. Even though you started the record off at negative 10 dB, it's going to mess around and be at like negative 6 or negative 5 before it gets sent to mastering. And that's cool as long as you got about negative 5, negative 6 of headroom before you're going to master, and you're good. But if you don't leave negative 10 from the jump as your peak volume, you're going to screw yourself over. So make sure you're leaving that headroom. For you, it might be negative 12 or negative 13 or whatever, but just make sure you're leaving that headroom. And the number 3, now this is a major one. This is a major one right here, because a lot of people avoid doing this because maybe they don't think it's that important. Like, a lot of people are wondering why their mixes aren't right, and they're like, what secret are engineers using that I don't know about? what plug-in do they have that I don't know about? What piece of gear do I need? What's the magic microphone that I need? Like, what is it? And I struggled with this for years, where I kept thinking, man, these engineers are holding out. They know something I don't know. Well, they kind of did, but it was kind of stuff that is very fundamental and it's obvious, and you'll see people talking about it, but it just doesn't necessarily jump out at you as being that important that you need to like overemphasize your choice on it. So I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you what it is. A lot of people are not mixing with the right speakers. Okay. Now, it's fine if you want to get yourself some budget speakers. If you're working with some KRKs, or you're working with some Mackeys, or some Yamaha like HS5s or something, there's nothing wrong with those speakers. But if you're gonna work with those speakers, you need to know how to work with them. You need to concentrate on just the mid-range. When you're mixing, if you're not concentrated on the mid-range, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. So for me personally, I have a speaker that I recommend that I recently started using. And since I started using, I have seen dramatic results. Now, if you don't want to go spend $800 on a pair of these speakers, that's fine. I have a tip for you that I'm going to explain for you in a minute. But the speakers that I'm referring to are the Auratone 5Cs. Okay, the Auratone 5Cs is a speaker that's been used for decades and decades in the recording industry. It's been a prominent reference speaker. Just like you got the NS10s that people reference, where it's not a beautiful speaker to listen to music on, but it concentrates on the mid-range and it forces you to focus on the mid-range, which you have people the likes of like Andrew Sheps, for example, who kind of shared that knowledge with us years ago, that the magic is in the mid-range, and that's really how it is, bro. And once you get that through your head, that concentrating on the mid-range is going to get you there, you are going to see your mixes go up at least 30% overnight. I kid you not. So if you can't afford like a pair of Auratone 5Cs or like some Avatone mix cubes or some CLA 10s, which is like a replica of the NS 10s, what you can do with your budget speakers or whatever you have to work with, even if you're mixing on headphones, what you can do is just take a high pass and a low pass filter and high pass up to 200 hertz and then low pass everything under 4K. Okay, so high pass everything over 200 hertz and low pass everything under 4K. Okay, so you could just put that like on the master bus and just have that for when you're mixing, and don't take it off until you're done, right? Don't take it off until you're ready to like export that mix for mastering or something. Because I'm telling you, when you focus on the mid-range, you are going to be concentrating on what is vital. You're going to be hearing the differences between those frequencies. When the bass and the highs are in there, they distract you and you end up focusing. I used to focus so much on the lows and so much on the highs, and for me, I kind of ignored the mid-range. Ironically, I don't know why I ignored the mid-range. I just did. Like, I would just always go in there and like carve out a little space around 1K and maybe make like one little boost. But it's different when you isolate the mid-range, because when you isolate it, you're forced to deal with things sounding good. Like if you didn't isolate it, you'll be like, oh, the kick sounds amazing. But the moment you go to high pass and low pass it to those frequencies I told you, you'll be like, where's the kick at? I don't even hear it. Well, guess what? That's because you need to boost the low mids a little bit more so that kick is actually coming through now. And you're going to start to see that your bass sits really well. Your highs are going to sound really clean and pure, and a lot of times you'll be boosting the highs. Maybe learn to boost the highs on the side image instead of the mid image. And the highs will just be spreading out so beautifully, because you took care of the mids. And it, like, once I sat back and really thought about it after doing it, I was like, bruh, it's so obvious when you really think about it. Because it's like when you make a sandwich, what is the main part of the sandwich? Is it the bread? I mean, yeah, the bread is important. But what if you came to order a burger and I just brought you 2 pieces of bread with some lettuce in the middle and some mayonnaise and ketchup in the middle? You're gonna throw up. You're literally gonna throw up. So what is the main part of the sandwich? It's usually the meat. It's in the middle. It's the peanut butter and jelly in the middle. It's the ham in the middle. It's the burger in the middle. It's the bacon in the middle. It's the chicken in the middle. You get the point. Like, the middle has always been the most important. It's the vital connection of why the bread is even there. It's why the low end and the high end are there. First of all, human hearing is concentrated on mid-range frequencies. Most people that you're communicating with, people, most of what you're listening to is mid-range frequencies, whether you know it or not. And so, as much as it might sound weird when you first just mix through some mid-range monitors, it's what's most natural to you, and you're gonna find out. You're gonna find that out really fast. If I would have been doing this 10 years ago, like, I could have been at the level I'm at right now with mixing. I could have gotten here so much faster if I wasn't so hard-headed and I just, kind of drilled some of these basic principles into my head. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to make this video long. I was just keeping it simple. I know I'm overemphasizing stuff, but I really just want people to get it, because I don't want you to spend 10 years, like I did, trying to figure out how to mix and still not being happy. I've had some good mixes here and there where I kind of got lucky, and then I've had plenty of mixes where it was mostly there, but it always felt like something was missing. And I'm telling you, it's the simple things. It's not the new plugins. It's not the new gear. It's knowing how to listen and how to monitor your stuff. And another important thing about mixing with something like the Oratones and keeping it at a low volume is that most people who are making music nowadays do not have a treated room. Like, I have some basic acoustic treatment on the wall. It's probably not even enough, and I've used SonarWorks with my regular monitors. But when the speakers are coming through your regular monitors and that bass is coming through and those highs are coming through, those frequencies are bouncing off the wall, and that's what's creating those dips and those boosts that need to be flattened by something like SonarWorks. Okay, but when you're mixing through the Oratones and the volume is low, those frequencies aren't bouncing against the walls, so you're automatically getting a way more flat response. Even without like using SonarWorks and some regular speakers, you're getting a more flat response. Now, if you were to blast the damn Oratones there, you probably would start getting some dips here and some raises here, and your frequency spectrum will be all off. You go listen to it in the car and be like, what the heck, it doesn't sound the same. But that's another reason why it's important to mix at low volumes. It's not just about ear fatigue. You don't want those frequencies bouncing off of your walls. Okay, so I done gave you 3 tips and a little bit more. I just want to see people do good, man. So hopefully, if you watching this channel and you making mixes and you working on music of any type, hopefully you learn something today and you can implement that. And if you come through here and you learn something, like it up, share something about your journey, you know what I mean? And much love.